Et à la une dans le monde, plus précisément en direct de Melbourne, Lise, où on va revenir sur de nouveaux tags antisémites et une commission nationale sur les attentats de Bondi Beach avec notre invité Jamie Hyans, Director of Public Affairs de l'AIJAC, l'Australia Israel and Jewish Affairs Council, en direct de Melbourne, comme je le disais.
Jamie Hyans, hello. Thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Coming to you from 43 degrees in Melbourne, 43 centigrade, that is, not 43 Fahrenheit.
Wow, it's very hot.
It is very hot.
Such a contrast. Even in Israel, we have rain, Jamie.
Yeah.
Alors, il expliquait qu'il fait très chaud en ce moment en Australie et c'est vrai que c'est l'autre hémisphère. On oublie parfois quand il pleut tellement, même en Israël en ce moment, que c'est l'été du côté de l'Australie. Alors, la découverte récente de nouveaux graffitis antisémites a ravivé les tensions et relancé le débat sur la réponse des autorités australiennes face à cette haine anti-juive. Jimmy, there were discovered new graffiti anti-Semite in Australia. And all that relaunched the debate about how the Australian authorities are or are not answering to the anti-Semitic hatred that is obviously very much present in the country.
Yeah, well, that's right. Now, finally, in the wake of the Bondi terrorist attack, our Prime Minister has basically caved into the pressure and agreed to hold a royal commission. So in Australia, a royal commission is the highest level type of inquiry that you can have. A royal commissioner has very broad-reaching powers. They can, in this case, she can investigate anyone, including the Prime Minister, down, and she can call anyone to give evidence, and it's all under oath. It can also be done in private if it relates to security matters. So this is a very important step. The Prime Minister was pushed. The public polls showed that the public was overwhelmingly in favour of a royal commission. There were all sorts of joint letters signed by very prominent people, business leaders, sports stars, judicial authorities, former members of the Prime Minister's own party, the ALP, former politicians from his own party. And in the end, he accepted the pressure and called a royal commission.
Alors, il y a une bonne nouvelle, disait Jamie Hyans là-dedans, c'est que finalement, 3 semaines après l'attentat de Bondi Beach, le Premier ministre a annoncé hier une commission royale d'enquête. C'est le maximum, c'est le plus haut niveau qui existe en termes d'enquête en Australie. Elle va avoir des larges pouvoirs, elle va pouvoir investiguer ce qu'elle veut, qui elle veut, y compris le Premier ministre lui-même. Elle va être sous serment et elle va avoir la possibilité d'enquêter sur tout cela. C'est vraiment un pas très important et c'était une énorme pression sur le Premier ministre de la part du public qui se disait en faveur de cette commission royale, mais aussi de la part de gens très connus, même d'anciens de son ministre, de stars du sport et de beaucoup d'autres gens en Australie. Qu'est-ce qu'on attend de cette commission royale, Jimmy? What do you expect from that commission?
Well, what I expect and what I hope for are two perhaps slightly different things. The Royal Commission, when it's appointed, it's done with the terms of reference, which set out what the Commissioner is meant to investigate. And the terms of reference are actually quite wide and quite good when you read them. So there's four main things that she's meant to investigate. She's meant to investigate anti-Semitism in Australia and what contributes to it, how it comes about, what the sources are. She's meant to investigate what can be done to fight anti-Semitism in terms of perhaps better action from the security forces, immigration, legislation. She's also meant to investigate specifically the lead up to the Bondi terror attack and what could have been done to stop that in terms of better intelligence about, perhaps finding out what the perpetrators were up to. And that part might be done in secret. And then there's a fourth part, which is social cohesion. So what can be done to improve social cohesion in Australia? And there's also a fifth one, which is anything incidental arising from the first four parts. So it's quite broad ranging. The part about intelligence, the government once reported back by April, and one of the very senior a former head of ASIO, our internal spy agency, is doing that part, and that's meant to be back by April. And then the government wants the whole of the Royal Commission to be reported back before December 14 this year. So basically, she has a year to do it all, which is quite a big ask. So what we're hoping she'll do is she'll uncover really what the causes are of anti-Semitism, defined quite broadly. The government said it should be defined according to the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, which is a promising sign. And she'll find ways to fight that, and she'll also perhaps look at why all the warnings the Jewish community was giving in the 2 years leading up to Bondi weren't heeded and what should have been done better. Now, there are concerns that she has quite a left-wing pro-protest background, so her recommendations may not be as strong as they should be. So time will tell.
Alors, c'est vrai que il y a deux choses. Entre ce que je pense qu'il va arriver, il y a des différences, mais on va dire que la commission a 4 grands sujets sur lesquels elle va pouvoir faire son enquête. Le premier sujet, c'est l'antisémitisme en Australie. Et qu'est-ce qui aurait pu être le second, c'est qu'est-ce qui peut être fait pour combattre cet antisémitisme, que ce soit en termes de sécurité, d'immigration ou de politique. Le troisième sujet, c'est l'attaque en elle-même de Bondi Beach, comment elle s'est passée et qu'est-ce qui aurait pu être mieux fait pour qu'elle soit évitée. Cette enquête-là va peut-être devoir être faite de manière secrète. Et en dernier lieu, c'est la cohésion sociale totale en Australie et comment on peut l'améliorer. Alors, on voit donc que c'est un assez large mandat pour cette commission royale. Tout ce qui concerne les services secrets doivent normalement être terminé d'ici le mois d'avril et quoi qu'il arrive, le rapport de la commission doit avoir été rendu d'ici au 14 décembre 2026, c'est-à-dire la date exacte de l'attentat de Bondi Beach. Donc la commission a 1 an au maximum pour avoir terminé son travail. On pense qu'elle va parler des causes de l'antisémitisme de manière très large et aussi en prenant en compte la définition de l'IRA. Donc c'est plutôt un signe encourageant. En tout cas, on sait aussi qu'elle va avoir des ennemis et des critiques, notamment du côté de la gauche, qui vont protester assez systématiquement contre ce qu'elle va dire. Et donc, il va falloir suivre attentivement tout ce qui va se passer là-dessus. On sait, Jamie, que 2 semaines à peu près avant le massacre de Bondi Beach, des graffitis antisémites avaient déjà été retrouvés à l'entrée de la plage et un avertissement visiblement n'avait pas été pris à sa juste mesure. Donc on attend de cette commission qu'il y ait des mesures non seulement quand il se passe quelque chose comme ce terrible attentat, mais surtout en prévention pour éviter que ça se reproduise. Jamie, 2 weeks before the Bondi Beach massacre, there were some anti-Semite graffitis found at the entrance of the beach, and obviously it was not taken so seriously by the authorities. So I imagine you expect that the commission will give not only reactions but things to do in prevention to avoid such massacre to go back and anti-Semitism to grow again in Australia.
Well, that's exactly right. It's not just about the Bondi attack, and it's not even just about the 2 years of increased anti-Semitism that led up to the Bondi attack. There have been countless instances of very offensive graffiti, including the one that you refer to in Melbourne at the largest Jewish school, at the entrance to the largest Jewish school. Someone painted on the wall, "Jews die." So this has been going on. Synagogues have been graffitied and so on. So what we want ultimately is for the Royal Commissioner to come back with findings about how to stop the anti-Semitism that's been going on in Australia for a long time, and as it certainly has increased since October 7, 2023. But you know why it is that Jewish children have to go to school past armed guards, why it is that synagogues have to be guarded. The Prime Minister actually said in his press conference yesterday, he as a child never had to go past guards to get to his school, and other schools don't, so why should Jews have to do it? So there is an expectation that she'll look at the broader issue of anti-Semitism across Australia and find ways to combat that, and that's what we're hoping she'll manage.
Alors, c'est vrai, donc cette commission, elle n'est pas seulement à propos de Bondi Beach ou même à propos de l'antisémitisme qui a mené à Bondi Beach depuis 2 ans. On prend par exemple l'exemple de l'école de Melbourne, l'école juive de Melbourne, et elle a été taguée avec mort aux juifs. Il y a eu plusieurs autres tags antisémites dans des synagogues. Et la Commission royale doit faire tout pour stopper cet antisémitisme qui malheureusement sévit en Australie depuis de nombreuses années et qui a augmenté encore depuis le 7 octobre 2023. Dans sa conférence de presse hier, le Premier ministre pointait du doigt le fait que les enfants juifs sont obligés d'avoir des gardes devant la porte de leur école et que jamais les autres petits Australiens n'ont besoin de vivre cela. Et donc, il va effectivement falloir que cette commission trouve des moyens de combattre l'antisémitisme qui existe aujourd'hui en Belgique. Euh, Jamie, on sent que ça n'a pas été facile, cette commission. Le Premier ministre n'avait pas l'air d'en vouloir. Il y a eu une énorme pression, vous l'avez dit, pour faire ça. Est-ce que du côté des familles des victimes, on est tout de même soulagé que la commission existe? We understood that the commission was really not easy to get, that it was necessary to have a lot of pressure in the country. So he said yes. Would you say that the victims' family are happy with the finally existence of this Royal Commission of Commonwealth on anti-Semitism in Australia?
Yeah, certainly we, with the community, the wider community and the Jewish community had to push very hard. There was also a letter from 17 affected families, including the families of most of those who were killed at Bondi. So there was a lot of pushing at the start. The Prime Minister and his ministers were saying there's no need for a Royal Commission. We need to do this quickly. It'll give a platform for anti-Semites, which was a particularly strange thing to say when it was the Jewish community and the families that were pushing for this. He was saying that New South Wales, which is the state where it happened, was having a Royal Commission and he would contribute to that, but he didn't want to overlap. So there was all these sort of strange excuses why not to have a Royal Commission. And it really looked to the community like there were political motives for not wanting to do it. He was concerned that there might be findings against his government. There might be people who tended to vote for him who might be upset by this Royal Commission. So it really took a lot of pushing to get it done. And then over the past few days, the language changed a bit. So then he started talking about how he'd been listening to the community and there was speculation and then reports that he in fact was going to call a Royal Commission. The families, by all reports, are disappointed that he didn't talk to them about the Royal Commission. He said he'd been talking to a lot of people, but the families came out and said he didn't talk to them about the terms of reference, and he didn't talk to them about the person who was going to be chairing the Royal Commission, this judge or former judge. But they did say that they are happy with the Royal Commission. So I should tell you a little bit about the commissioner as well. So she's a former Supreme Court judge of New South Wales, which is the highest court in New South Wales, and then she became a judge of the High Court, which is the highest court in Australia. And she's also a criminal lawyer. So one of the issues of concern was that the Royal Commission might get in the way of the accused terrorists' ability to have a fair trial. But being a former criminal lawyer, she's expected to know how to get around that as well. So ostensibly, she's quite a good person, but there were other people, including retired judges, quite eminent retired judges, who were calling for a Royal Commission themselves, who the community would have preferred.
Alors, effectivement, ça a été assez difficile d'obtenir cette commission et il a fallu que la communauté juive tout entière, et y compris les familles des victimes, mettent vraiment beaucoup de pression parce que le gouvernement répondait qu'il n'y en avait pas besoin, qu'il fallait faire vite, que le plus important, c'était d'avoir une plateforme pour lutter contre l'antisémitisme. Bon, finalement, le langage a changé et la commission royale a été annoncée hier en grande pompe par le Premier ministre. Les familles auraient mieux aimé tout de même que le Premier ministre leur parle et discute avec eux avant de mettre en œuvre cette commission et ça n'a pas été le cas. Et il faut parler également de quelque chose qui fait polémique, même si les familles et la communauté est contente de cette commission royale. Il y a tout de même à sa tête une personne qui a quelques critiques, une juge ou ancienne juge spécialiste de droit criminel. On aurait pu effectivement penser que quelqu'un d'autre à la tête de cette commission aurait été mieux. Il y avait d'autres candidatures possibles, c'est ce qu'on pense en Australie. I read that she was really lefty and was maybe accused of being not so friend of Israel, Jamie. J'ai lu qu'elle était peut-être de gauche et accusée parfois d'être anti-israélienne. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez?
Well, yeah, she is regarded as quite left-wing. There was also an inquiry the government had into some of the activities of the previous more conservative government, which she chaired, and she had scathing findings about that. The main concern of her is, as I said, she's got a quite left-wing background, but she also made a finding in relation to the right to protest, and that legal decision didn't relate to the Palestinians protesting. But in New South Wales, there was the government attempted to ban some Palestinian protests, and they took it to court and they were successful. And the judge in that case cited former Judge Bell's decision. So there's a concern that she leans a bit too much towards the protesters. And we regard the protests as one of the main incubators of anti-Semitism in Australia, because week after week they're in the cities and they're chanting things like all Zionists are terrorists and free Palestine from the river to the sea, so no Israel, and globalise the Intifada, bring the violence of the Intifada to Australia. So we regard that as one of the major problems that we'd like to see resolved. And there are concerns that with her previous views on protest and the right to protest, she might be less amenable to doing something like that.
Alors effectivement, elle a une réputation d'être de gauche et surtout en fait, ce qui concerne les gens, c'est quel avis elle va avoir sur les manifestations pro-palestiniennes. En Australie, on pense que ces manifestations sont véritablement l'incubateur de la haine antisémite dans le pays et donc il faut les combattre. Et de ce point de vue-là, elle a déjà par le passé peut-être été un peu plus en faveur de ces manifestations qui pourtant sont très claires, très anti-israéliennes, qui parlent d'intifada, de Free Palestine from the river to the sea. Donc effectivement, il y a cette question et la façon dont elle réagira par rapport à ces protestations pro-palestiniennes qui ont lieu dans le pays, c'est quelque chose qu'on verra avec, qu'on surveillera avec attention. Merci beaucoup, Jamie Hyans, directeur of Public Affairs à l'AJAC en direct de Melbourne, d'avoir été avec nous ce matin depuis l'Australie. Shabbat Shalom, et on va espérer que ce travail de la commission va servir à éradiquer l'antisémitisme en Australie. On suivra ça avec attention avec vous. Thank you so much, Jamie Hyans, for having been with us today. Shabbat Shalom and see you soon.
Thanks very much, and Shabbat Shalom and to you and your listeners as well. Thank you.